about arrays in JavaScript. Based on what you just did in the last video, you should be able to do this challenge. So take a moment to pause the video and then solve this. Okay, so I'm going to do this right now. So while I solve this, I'm going to do Command or Control / and comment that out. And I need 3 different coin values. So I'll say let, and then I'll use Hungarian notation for a decimal, which is a float. So F, so float, and we'll do coins equals, and then just a list of numbers, 0.05, 0.25, and lastly 0.10. And I can just hit save right now, and it'll do a little reformatting because of my code formatting tool that is installed. And so now I want to do a loop to loop over these and print them out. So I'll do for I count equals 0 while I count is less than f coins dot length I count plus plus. Oops, I put some syntax there that I did not want. All right. And then I could either do a console.log or a document.write. Either one of those would be fine. I'll do a console.log, and I will do f coins, and then the index each time we loop through, which is I count. All right, and then I've already started this in another window, but if I had not, I could stop and then click Go Live again. And over here, I have a blank screen because I printed it out to the console. So I right-click, go to Inspect, and go over to Console, and I see it printed out. If you're watching a previous video and things got stuck, you might have to go over to this page and unclick your breakpoint. But for now, this is working just great, and you've solved that problem. Okay, let's go ahead and uncomment out the code that we had before. And I'm going to get rid of this. Don't need it anymore. Challenge is over. So in this case, what we have going on is we have an undetermined or non-predetermined size of our array, but we have another way of creating our arrays that specify in advance how big it's going to be. So let me move this around. And oops, my copy and paste is not hitting the right keys on the keyboard. Okay, so one thing I can do is I can say array and then I number of donuts. So this creates an array of that size after it's been prompted. So let's run our code again just to verify this works. I'll hit save, come over here, how many donuts? I'll say 1, and we'll say apple, and then it prints it out there at the bottom. All right, so everything's looking good. So that's one thing we can do. All right, now let's switch gears again, and instead of having this dynamic list of donuts being created, let's go ahead and have a preset list and then add some things to it. So I'm going to start off with RGS donuts again, and I'm going to pre-fill it to apple, powdered, and chocolate. Okay, so one thing I can do is I can actually add to this list. And by the way, I don't need this anymore either. I just want to print out what I'm doing to the screen. Okay, so I can add to this list using a method of an array which is called push. So rgs donuts.push. And right now in my head, I'm hearing the song Push It in my head from Salt and Pepper. Let's just put a plain donut on the end, and I hit save. And I come over here and I check in my other window, and all of them are there. All right, I could do another command to put it at the beginning of the list rather than at the end, and that is unshift, which is kind of a strange sounding name. But if this worked correctly, then we should see plain at the beginning. And we do. So we can put things at the beginning or at the end. Some other interesting things we can do with arrays are take things off of the end or off of the beginning. So when we take something off, let's just say we'll do pop, and pop does not take anything as a parameter. So what we're saying is we're going to take that thing off of the end. So let's just verify that this works. And we see we just have apple and powdered. Now, what was the point of just taking something off? Well, sometimes we actually want to do something with that. So I'll say let s donut equal, and so the thing that gets taken off the end is returned to this variable, and I'll say alert, and we can see what it was. So in some cases, you might want to have some type of loop, which is continually popping things until the list is over. But in this case, let's just see what came off the end. And it says chocolate was removed, and then from the loop that's left over, or the array that's left over, we're printing out those two items. Okay, and then instead of pop, there's another one called shift, and that takes something away from the beginning and then basically resizes the array to have what's left over. So if I do that one, we are expecting to see apple show up. Look at that, it says apple, and then the next two items are left in the array. So we have therefore resized it. Okay, using for loops is a tried and true method of looping over an array based on its length, and it will probably always be around. However, there are some new ways to do things, and I'd like to show you that right now. I'm going to comment this out for a moment. Might need it later. And let's show a different way of doing a loop that's somewhat newer. So I do RGS donuts and I do dot, and I call this method called for each. Now, when we have methods, sometimes we pass in a string or a number. One of the things that we can pass in with JavaScript is a function, and for each is expecting us to pass in a function. So we'll just write the word function and then a function that does something here. And the high-level idea is that this is passing in one line at a time out of its list into the function that we put right here. So if I do function, and usually we give things a name, but this function is going to be anonymous because it's not needed to be used anywhere outside of this method. So I'll say function sDonut. So this is a parameter that's going to be passed in every time it goes through each item in the list. So first time it's going to be apple, second time it's going to be powdered, etc. And then I'll just do a little console.log here, and I'll put in sDonut. So with each iteration, donut gets sent to something else. And if I come over here, I see my 3 donuts, which is what I was expecting. And so this is one way of writing this callback function, as we call it. Another way that we could do this with our anonymous function is to change the syntax and make it look like an arrow function. It is in fact an arrow function. So we get rid of the word function and put an arrow right there, and then it is going to do the exact same thing. Okay, so that's good for now as it relates to that. Let's also show off another feature of arrays, which is the fact that we can sort them. So let's go RGS donuts.sort. And we see that alphabetically speaking, right now it's out of order. But let me hit save and come over here, and now it's apple chocolate powdered. So it is now in alphabetical order, and we could have done numbers and it would have sorted it as well. One thing I'd like to note here is that oftentimes when we're using methods, we're returning something over to the left-hand side, but since we're not returning anything, but the order changes, this is telling us that this particular method looks at the internals of what's in there and actually reorders them and changes it. So, all right, that's enough about that. And then just for a little bit of humor, got a little meme from off of the net to consider. This is true. Why would we sort something if there's only one item in the list? Okay, let's go on to the last topic, and that is going to be multi-dimensional arrays. So let me clear off most of this. Well, I think I might need I'd like to save that thing that's commented out there. So I'll leave that in place. Okay, multi-dimensional arrays. Right now we're just looking at one attribute of our donut, which is its name. But if you think in terms of spreadsheets, oftentimes you'll have multiple columns, and the first column might be name, the second column might be price, third column might be calories, and we'd like to display all of this on a web page somewhere. One way that we could do this is have 3 different sets of arrays. So let me demonstrate that as an approach. So RGF prices, so an array to hold the prices of these donuts. And let's just assume that 125 is the cost of a premium donut, and it's 99 cents for the other donuts. And I might actually like to add in another one and put it on the end here. So I'll say, so I have more diversity. Bavarian, so it's a chocolate filled, or it's actually a cream filled, and it's also premium. And I'll put it there at the end. And then let's add on the calories. Let RGF calories equal, and then we'll just say it's like 500 calories for one donut. For powdered, we'll say it's 300. For chocolate, we'll say it's 275. And for Bavarian, we'll say it's 350 because of all that luscious cream inside. Okay, so with that, we could start iterating over this list to see this information. All right, and then just to kind of mix things up, I could do console.log, but let's go and just put it right in the web browser. So I'll do document.write, and we're looping over this, and I'll leave it like it is for the moment, just so we can watch that happen. All right, I put them all on one line, so let's fix our output a little bit. Concatenate a line break. Hit save again. Go back. All right, that's looking better. I'm going to close that because I don't need it at the exact moment. Actually, since this is on the left-hand side of the page, I'll reorient my display a little bit. Okay, so if I want to then display the other things, I can count on the fact that 0 for this array, and this array all deals with this donut. 1, it corresponds to powdered all the way down. 2 is everything related to chocolate as we go down, etc. So those indexes are consistent with the thing that's in the first list, so I can take advantage of that. Let's go ahead and add the prices and the calories over here. So I want to add a little space on my screen, plus, and then add RGF prices, bracket I count. So the first time through, it's looking at index 0 plus, and then add on, oops, I want a space in there, not just an empty string. And I'll do the last one, RGF calories, and then also I count. So it's just going to loop over that, and let's just check if everything works like we hoped. So the first time through, it'll be all 0s, and then all 1s, and then all 2s. All right, we hit save, it reloaded automatically, and we're looking fantastic. Okay, so we're happy about this. One disadvantage of this approach is if we were to do something like this, like rgsdonuts.sort. Let's go ahead and watch what happens here. All right, so we see that powdered is now at the end of the list as it's displayed, but the price is still in the same position. So things got jumbled up. So while absent of the sort, this is a useful way to have a list of parallel items that are all related to a particular topic. It does have some shortcomings. So let's go on to the last topic, which is an array of arrays. So let me kill all of this material here. And let's see, I might want to save my loop. I'll hold on to my loop there for a second. I'm going to end up rewriting it. Okay, so another way that we could look at this is we could say let RGS donuts equal array 4. All right, so what I'm thinking about here is I want 4 donuts, but each entry in this array is going to be another array with 3 different aspects to it. So let's go ahead and start building this out. RGS donuts sub 0. So the first thing in there is going to be another array. And it's going to hold 3 things. So you might think about this as these are 4 rows, and then these are 3 columns. And so we're going to start referencing those columns now. So I'll say RGS donuts 0, and then I'm going to access the first column in this array, or the first offset in this array, which is also 0, and I'm going to set that equal to apple fritter. And then I'm a lazy typer, so let's go ahead and augment this here. All right, so we got so there's 3 different columns there for that first array, and so we want to put in a price, and we want that to be 125, and then we want this to be calories, which we will make 500. Okay, so now we see the pattern. Let's do this a few more times. So I'm going to copy and paste this 3 times. Okay, so the next one is going to be, so basically the second row. So these are all going to relate to the second donut. This is going to all relate to the third donut. And this will all relate to the fourth donut. And then we're going to need to jump in and update these things. And I'll just arbitrarily Boston cream name these. And we'll say, again, that's $1.25, and it's $3.50. And then we'll do a Long John, because I can't remember my donuts from one example to the next. And we'll make this 0.99, and it's going to have 300 calories. And then we'll have one that is glazed. And isn't it like a good time to go get a donut? Fortunately, some places are always open, like Krispy Kreme. All right, so we'll make this one 300. All right, so now we have set this, and so the question is, how can we loop through this now? Let's kind of clean. I'm going to steal my stuff right there and say, okay, let's do RGS donuts, and then we want I count, so that's for a particular donut. And then we want to see the name of it, which we know every single time is 0 in that array that's contained there. So I'll hit save, and there, it's all on one line again. All right, looking good. And then the other ones are going to be, for each row, is going to be consistently in 0, 1, 2. So let's go ahead and add in not only the names, but I'll do a little space, and I'll put in art. Ooh, this is going to be typing. I don't want to do that. So let's just copy and paste this and put it right there. Then we'll have 1. So that'll be the thing in the second column, which will be the price. And then we're going to need another space, that kind of space, plus that, and then I want everything on a different row. Oh, by the way, change this to 2. That's my last thing. And then I'll put on a nice little HTML line break. So I hit save, and everything comes out good. All right, so the high-level idea is that we can have arrays that contain arrays, and that can help us with certain issues. Now my preference is to use, for more complicated data like this, I would prefer to use something like an object, but that is something for a future lesson. And as we close out talking about arrays, here's our little last meme here. So ponder the fact that you create arrays of arrays of arrays, and that in every single one of them you could put a loop. So for example, although I hard-coded this right here, I could have just put another for loop inside, and every time had it go from 0 to 3, and then I could have like 2 variables that would help print things out at any given moment. The internal array would have its, or the internal loop would have its variable appear in this spot. But anyway, fun stuff. We're done with arrays for now, so have a great day, and on to the next topic.